The next step I'm going to go through is how we can create some dynamic routing. So when we want to start updating or editing our specific items here, so we have the possibility of clicking the name or skating and then go to a page, or if you want a modal pop-up. So we can use the input fields like this to change it instead of just making it Flanders go to Canada, right? And with Vue and other things, we can use dynamic routing. And you can go to this page if you're more curious about. So it's router.vue, vue.js.org. And then you can read through it. So I'm going to use some of the things in here. I'm not going to copy it straight up, but I am going to how they structure their router. So a path, the name of the router, and slash, in this case, ID. I'm just going to use the same. And then the component we're going to use. So I'm going to create a new component for it. And then based on the ID of the thing we're using, in this case, I'm just going to use this because this is very unique. Whereas this could be the same and this could also be the same. So I'm going to use the ID as my unique identifier in this case. Good. So let's go into Visual Studio Code, and I'm already in the index file. So router index file, and in here, I am going to just copy this one here, the one called ToDo's, and put it right after this one. So this, I'm going to change the path instead of being ToDo. So if you actually go back here, you can see they have users/ID. So this will be a singular item for me. So I'm going to use ToDo / and then ID like they have it here, right? So this is similar to this one without the S and of course the name. So the name will be, I don't know, ToDo single. So instead of having plurals or all of them, I'm just going to be presenting you with one. So a detailed page or a ToDo detail page for this one. So I'm going to call this ToDo detail like this and save, and we'll get an error. It's fine. It's because it's trying to import something that doesn't exist yet. So in my view, I'm going to hit plus. So create the new one, and I'm going to call this ToDo detail.view. And in here, I'm going to do the vbase, there we go, to just create the standard things. Again, this is V2 or V3 snippets, so some of those. And I'm just going to do editing a ToDo. I'm going to wrap this in a H1 and H1 and the H1 here because system doesn't want to help me. And great. So this is the standard thing we have. So I'm going to click save. I'm going to go see what happens in my page. And that's fine. We can do this / and this is the page. Well, eventually we'll have a number, something, right? And we can see the page is actually working. So that's good. So we know the route we created in this one works, but we need to set up how it actually goes to the page, because as of right now, it's just going to the actual page where by manually clicking. We need to set something around each of our item here. So whenever we click a specific item, it's going to go to that page. So we could either do it around this one here. I'm actually going to do it around, so where the div starts, great. So I'm going to move my delete down one. Whoops, oh, I hit something I shouldn't have. Where'd it go? I'm going to move my delete down after the edit here. And then I'm going to create a router link around these items here. So the H4, the paragraph, and also the button here, right? So I already have this, but whatever. We can fix this later. I'm going to do the router link. Oh, we did it correctly this time. Thank you. So almost. So I'm taking the closing tag for router link and putting this after the edit button here, right? So I'm going to push this in a little bit so we can easier see. So starts here, ends here. And inside this one, we're going to set up what it needs to do. So we're going to use the to. We're binding some information, so where it needs to go. And the reason why I'm putting it here is because it's already inside the loop. So I already have access to the ID, to the, I'm going to switch this around. This shouldn't be the This should be ID, right? Instead of the author, because this is your unique identifier. So ToDo in states, and we have the possibilities to just grab the information here. So I'm going to use template literals, which, how do I make this on this keyboard? Not like that. Oh, there we go. So template literals, so we can write, well, the functions, no, the variables straight into it. And I'm going to use ToDo's because this is the path I created in here, right? So /ToDo/ and then an ID. So what I can do when we use template literals is I can just use the money sign or dollar sign or whatever you call it. Oops, not two of them. And then my curly brackets to pass in the information I want. And the one I want to grab is ToDo _ ID. Oops, with a dot like this. So just like this one down here, you can copy paste this if that's easier. But basically it's grabbing the specific ID for this specific item because we're inside the loop already. So I don't need to attach it to something specifically. It already is attached. So let's click save. Let's go to our browser. Let's go to ToDo's. So now you can see this already blue because it's being marked. So if I click barred Flanders, you can see down here at the bottom of the page, it changes from 623 to 623. Well, that wasn't a good one. So the back end of it's 192, and this is D8E, and so on and so on. So you can see the routing is now based on the information. So if I click, I go to this one. You can also see the URL up here, and here again it's 896 and 192. So the routing now works, and we're now going into specific about this user here. Now you could also do this a little bit different. If you don't want to use your router link like this, you can also send the information down with a prop. So the ID that sent that down with a prop to the details page, or you can use params as well. If you want that, you can send everything along the params, like this one here. So named routes, we can also use it like this. It's similar, so we send it down with parameters instead, but it's really up to you how you want to structure your code, really. All right, next video we'll continue with the edit part.